TAPTAP send. Oh, I was my baby, you're from Calabos. The only boss. With oneness, baby, I will be everywhere I day and everywhere they go. TAPTAP send got me covered. It was therefore, if you need to send money or transfer money from Europe, from Canada, from USA, from UK, any part in Europe, you can send it through TAPTAP send. And guess what? Oceania, they will receive it right here in Ghana and many countries across Africa. So what are you waiting for? Download TAPTAP send now on Google Play Store or App Store. When you download, it's so easy to use. Tell your families, tell your loved ones to download TAPTAP send. Okay? But also, when I receive my money, the other time I would be chilling, like my view, hey, you crazy. Download TAPTAP send now on Google Play and App Store. TAPTAP send, it's secure, convenient, easy, and fast.
After successfully redefining Accra's skyline with the delivery of the signature apartment, Cape May Properties presents an exclusive unveiling of the tallest residential building in Ghana, offering a first look of Sultan Sky. Sultan Sky, a magnificent representation of the seamless fusion of quality, groundbreaking innovation, and pioneering architectural brilliance. An extraordinary structure set to reshape the concept of upscale living, thanks to its inventive attributes and unparalleled commitment to precision. This master-planned residential development will focus on the building's location, security, privacy, the design's aesthetic brilliance, elevated features in each living space, cutting-edge smart home technology, and amenities beyond imagination, with fantastic residential features which include 24-hour concierge service, a state-of-the-art fitness center, a floating tennis court, a floating swimming pool, a spa, a sky pool, a sky lounge, a movie theater, co-working spaces, kids zone, distinctive lifts for staff and deliveries, private gardens, chef's kitchen, expansive terraces, entertainment rooms, restaurant, and 24-hour security. Sultan Sky, a new perspective in the sky.
Say metianum na me kasa gu mesremo amfa ncheme abusuafo me mamu nyina adwo emamu akwaba edemo ebadwumadi your friend say time with TAPTAP send with your servant Nana Kwame Osei22 ene edien ena ye ka ho asem ewodwumadi so men pause and aging menopause ene Dr. Richard Eghan ababe kan ye ho aye ba betwetwe sa ankomoyi eye ankomo bia ehunhia ma ema pa sa enso ene hunhia ema emema eni ntimisre wa se wo odofo bi adamfo bi onua bi a but what they send the link ne emma no so emeka ye ho ene enkomo yi isan say doctor aye crado say we be man all that we need to know about menopause and aging. And into Bomodian, share the link and invite somebody to join us on this show this evening. Meeting any nana kwame said they make kind of tap send a jumakuno and every Thursday be a ugita imu Emma Yetimi Eddie Jumedie Ebrel. And it is a war me, see me, baby bia, na se unyan download the TAPTAP sender. Bomodian call App Store, Play Store. Na call download the TAPTAP send. Na also namso na fa send the sika ekoma adofonum ewo omai Ghana mu niti to nye Ghana kwa eno send the sika call most of the African countries, Asia, and so wako Brazil, wako NA TAPTAP send we do Jamaica. TAPTAP send edu Jamaica, and it's not just a war tre na shimu or tre na shimu pa, and it is a unya meka ebusuya kesi yi ho a make for TAPTAP send ama join us na onso when ibeje se obeka ebusuya yi eho. And a TAPTAP send aswe or say we the month of May esi onomo say what the celebrity mothers or the celebrity mothers. And intimisrewa this coming Sunday, Bomodia, watch out, a church nearby, and as a community event to be a benwo. Ubehana TAPTAP send we piho. Na wo pie ho nso a ma menomo and a wo be celebrate yom enti Bomodia look out for TAPTAP send in community event be a benwo anase church be a benwo ebia oye lakia TAPTAP send ebi pie ho no mo ama wonso weni beje pa enye eno nkwan not just this coming Sunday nemum the month of May enyina what they celebrating mothers and in TAPTAP send say me ma unya nti say just watch out on your app. Will be a lot of updates how they are going to celebrate mothers and how customers are going to benefit from the month of May Mother's celebration. No, Nina or the whole announcement through your email and through the app, and into just watch out for the TAPTAP send month of May Mother's celebration. Watch out, Nina. Near Tosum Yunun Swami free TAPTAP send as ye at the airbrow scammers. Miss Reo say wunim se unya kobi na wunim baby the source of corner air coming from. Na wo kan kire say wo free TAPTAP send anything bow password manu code ya Miss Reo. Anampo say or catch them say was sendi code be e de aba phone so na hwe na bobo manua misrew omo scammers and inti moma yenye ahweye na yema yani na ho esan say sabre enkrofoi wo mani abredin den enam kwanua sanyina so e de yinkrofo. And we should be vigilant when it comes to telephone calls, any text messages yebinya na yenimba bia efia. We shouldn't attend to it, and as we shouldn't pay attention to it. Miss Remoa. And will be our TAPTAP send customer service telephone number, and we'll call Google. And we'll board TAPTAP send number be if you Google buy say a TAPTAP send and or fine or frey no nim say on a TAPTAP send customer service team and a casa. Nanso na scammers and I create telephone number online say TAPTAP send. Say unim TAPTAP send customer service number Mr. www.taptapsend.com. All the countries are TAPTAP send operate customer service or contact customer service numbers no sa enso na in your app. And also no oko now scroll down oko contact support and our helper honso ubenya TAPTAP send customer service number honomo per the country na wa use misrel se oko online na oko phone number bi na unim se TAPTAP send misrel don't use it while here you fall a victim of this scammers omo aban anything misrel moma yenyina yenye ahweye is answer scammers omo ani abrepa omo yinkrofo. Finally on scam say obi send you message say anas ofrel say TAPTAP send time with tap send ye shiemu ye be ye meeting eda say and inti was send you code bi edu honoma no akai no adjoin ya mesrew eno nso ya hwe tap send e kwan ya ye fa so di invite ye nkrofo and I say customers eba show you so email a ye send e de bro through ye tap send email a wunim da bia ye send email e de bro now click link no so na wa join on our Zoom and I say omo joining OT media WhatsApp platform ye share link no enso hono and also o click link no so na wa join ye mfa message bia bro say boko dibi ansa na wotimi a join this Zoom meeting yesre wo muma yenye ahweye scammers omo aye serious omo edi area enkrofo pa enti mesremo a muma yenye ahweye. Yo, and you said ye midi kan no. Yene Dr. Richard Eghan and ebetwetwe enkomo and then you mre ewo dwumadie so Dr. Waba yen platform so several times na then you mre so nyame ayadom yene no yen sa aka no ene wanya emre ene eba betwetwe enkomo ede afa menopause and menopause and aging eno ena ye betwe enkomo ene na ansa na no dane me ho na me fa enkrato ba kuminu entwam eno na chi no me de Dr. Richard Eghan ebebro producer
me did young antechua and maybe am this cabe for Europe akuma busuafo wo Ghana no me use tap send no fee mobile money transfer easy convenient fast and sounds so free tia hwe me discover ye mapim tap send entienne also download the tap send app no ewo mobile phone so free na fesika komo abusuafo wo Ghana fa na nyina tap send papa no After successfully redefining Accra's skyline with the delivery of the signature apartment, Cape May Properties presents an exclusive unveiling of the tallest residential building in Ghana, offering a first look of Sultan Sky. Sultan Sky, a magnificent representation of the seamless fusion of quality, groundbreaking innovation, and pioneering architectural brilliance. An extraordinary structure set to reshape the concept of upscale living, thanks to its inventive attributes and unparalleled commitment to precision. This master-planned residential development will focus on the building's location, security, privacy, the design's aesthetic brilliance, elevated features in each living space, cutting-edge smart home technology, and amenities beyond imagination, with fantastic residential features which include 24-hour concierge service, a state-of-the-art fitness center, a floating tennis court, a floating swimming pool, a spa, a sky pool, a sky lounge, a movie theater, co-working spaces, kids zone, distinctive lifts for staff and deliveries, private gardens, chef's kitchen, expansive terraces, entertainment rooms, restaurant, and 24-hour security. Sultan Sky, a new perspective in the sky.
Yo, Adafunum me mamo ajo mamo akwaba ebiem. Enenumre time with TAPTAP Send Jumedie yede ebro every Thursday be sponsored by TAPTAP Send ena wani egusua o hwe enumre. Midi ene nana kwame osaitu. Said midi kan we are talking about menopause and aging. Dr. Olabe kan we want to understand the changes when it comes to ye nyini emu ene ekwan befa so a yebetimi maintaining our very good health. Doc, memo ajo emu akwaba na nwumre yi ede o eba dwumadie so. Doc mbacho o mute if you can unmute yourself. Yeah. Producer Mpacho. Hello, Doc. Mpacho Timinka.
Yeah, maybe had be a metonka.
Very good. I can hear you now. Yeah. Wonderful.
That's good.
Very good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Eja matonko ba odidi wecho nyina do advert akese. Eja eri hu yini wacho eja nana said to and I say Prince onya na not yet. We Prince Prince said to anambwa.
Sa ncheche mu die me ye wo hanom ahwe a metwedwan nti wo de ye mfa ne sa ne enkoye nim.
We Prince na kwame o say to it's okay. And the minimum one na unyanye Prince nti minimum one way back those are
you see close to 20 years now. Close to 20 years now.
And Dr. Eghan esi no niema sabe wa cover ne niema wa ye as an integrative eclectic or ya kasi integrative and eclectic anya Dr. Bia keke na do some pempenso no ye won penifo wo ne ye won kwara wo mu
and great
Bia obesha ye start almost chassis free baby nkakra na omo dia ba bedru ye pempenso no because pempenso anya dru ne die na sabe
Doc, mami enkonisi. Ebia any first time wa obi ote wonka obi onshia platform so wonte wonka ewo internet so anase TV ahodo so ewo my Ghana mu anywhere sa afana nyina. Yeka Dr. Richard Eghan ono anyway.
Yo, you know me say mpempenso di edro. Dr. Richard Eghan Dr. Nia Oka niema bibre bomu sabi onye Dr. Nia ohe only one direction and now ohe one area wasua niema ahodo na okekani nyina bom osi use conventional drugs and medicine medical sciences because he's a scientist anyway ade eye na juma osanso so use natural therapeutic sciences and arts ade ye na juma. And to nipa we or integrate both conventional medical sciences and medicine, any natural medical sciences. Sana na this no if you one step and or dear move to the highest step, as to say what drew some purpose way. Just say to but to home man no need man or we need for a long time ago. They send a walk and almost no yanante. Ejuma ye mu ache yakwa chire no nipa wonya experience a ebie wani enye book mu sebe nimdie nko a but practical experience see e ba ne say yes sayare see e ba ne say obi a opeso obewo na ye bo ano a na just say ye kire wo say start treatment no na wie treatment no wa wie dia ene na eho no enye your fault. Name we shasye near guide o near catch us who free ha who free ha no timmy follower. And yet, Ninia, Ubenya result, no. And yet fertility pet sexual function. Any yari biera etimibo unipa. Yankopon abona aba asasi suha. Obi anyone my abo no se omrametna asasi we so. Na ne health enye perfect da. Because conditions in Kwana yetimu was asasi we so. Yanka say nipa no conditions obuha nakra wodimin na. What that crown be 3 hours. Now they we air per in health. Unya health at that. Because your catcher would say 8 hours. When ya and nakra and a be 6 or 7 hours. When ya crown no. It is a what to one say, what the oh, and a yamia boo ye, and a yari be a honomoa, what they were bushing a big nimu. Sister, and it must be a saying, Hosa. Name ye we strive for medical and health perfection. Say ye be ye home, ye betini empo ye drew be a friend equilibrium. Na say level beer, and one yet so perfect, and also so a ye. enti at least yɛbɛtumi de maintain yɛn ho atena asase so ha enti obi a ɔyɛ integrative and eclectic doctor and physician no na nneɛma a wasua na nneɛma a ɔkeka bɔ mu no ɛnyɛ any ordinary simple medical doctor ɛne yɛka n'asɛm ɛna mesan so yɛ global public health and health promotion expert and another qualification and sana yako bibi to say psychological therapy and that's psychotherapy ni yako the keka ho ni na edoso ntimi nka ebre ma ye kwan na emo Dr. Eghan ewo UK ha na netie sabi apart from say me ye Ghana ni mapa na me Jimmy hu di say me ye Ghana ni no asante fa and infante fa me sanso so UK national matna ha since my A levels and I bet na krum ha matna ha bisi na day me no kasei nti niema dia kwadre niema mu me wo private clinic e wo Lewisham South East London ha nti ewie programming ye the number 2 dwa na asem bi a meka bi a wo pese wo ka bi e ka ho and I will be some question e wo ho bia no me the number never 2 dwa bi biara wo the program ye yurashi wo the also wo program problem ben enye de kenko bi biara wo fu say wo ho question bia no timi bisa me the ma and ye bi clinic na ketu bi nso so wo Accra Ghana ye krom na Ghana de TV stations e wo ho de me simba bobo din e bre ma ye kwan na wo call internet so na obo me din a wo be hu ba bi a me din ye connected to all the stations a e wo Ghana mewura so ana ye invite me akoso na bobu so ahun se na adan wo de enko anti e na station bi a pese ombu saw asem ana omni ye program na answer no so ye de bema wo enti em se kakra e wo mu enie
yo adafo no doctor ne ho ensem kakra ena waka no ba no sexual health fertility this is doctor ni area won fe ni agrokra wo boa enkrofo bebre engino ene won say menopause ho asem ena ye ba beka na imom generally no wo any health question bia wo peso ubusa doctor why crowd say ne obeyi ano ama ni titiru eba no sexual health ene fertility ho nsem a doctor ebetimi ayi ni nyina ano ede ama na ne anwumre de enkomotwetwe no we want to understand the changes when it comes to menopause and aging. The changes are eba. Na afei so bibi bia eba no symptoms anyhow it menopause affect our health. Ene eno eho enkomo ena yene doctor eba betwetwe. And it's doc anwumre ibejama na mesre ye maaminum ene ye nuanom amoko yisu se mesre wa se wo nua bi adamfo bi a send the link na ema no so enjoy yen izan se ene nkomotwetwe no ebeye enhira ede ama obibia doc yetio menopause
yo brother and say nipa nankasa sanye si boy ba wiase we mu no once I wo honam any flesh, any matter, I must say, bibia ye matter, and I say related to material, bia no HNG. And so be catch us, oh, your boy, and say, my man, ye betting we are say forever and ever, bibia and sisan. Now I'm say, yeah, in science, no, yeah, no, yen said that engine to mu, baby, sir, because bibia a material, and I de matter, and I bibia ye free matter mu. Material atoms ni de ka ho no enyina mu no ma me se besesa e be change isan say environment no kra ye boy e be to mu wo wi ase no kra no changes ba mu all the time and ye hwe universe no so a ye hwe awia ye hwe enstroma ni ye hwe botomia it brings about changes. And yema change all the time and sana yensu your life no any and ye may be exercise where you move nti sɛnea yɛwo develop yɛ embryology so embryo no anaasɛ woda yɛfunu mu a nneɛma ɛsesa no saa na asesa bɛsi nnɛ a wodu stage bi a yɛse waduru yɛfrɛ no sɛn adolescence wodu stage bi a yɛse wayɛ adult wodu stage bi a yɛse waduru ha saa nhyehyɛeɛ no ne saa nkyerɛkyerɛeɛ no ɛkɔ so all the time. It is a wopɛ sɛ wote aseɛ sɛ menopause bɛba w'abrabɔ mu one day a ɛyɛ nokorɛ ɛbɛba. You only have to be prepared for it. That's all. Ɛbɛba, but you must be prepared for it. So wote hɔ no ase a na yɛde wo ɛwura menopause na nkasa ɛyɛ deɛ bɛn. Yeah. Nti menopause yɛ it is a natural cessation of menstruation due to declining hormone levels. That's all. And the natural cessation of natural cessation of menstruation due to what? The decline in hormone levels. Yɛde kɔ yɛ kasa mu a mehwɛ sɛ metimi akyerɛ mu yɛ kasa mu a ɛgya ɛbɛyɛ ne dɛn ɛsua nkurɔfo kasa na ɛyɛ aka yɛ hɔ kakra nanso mɛyere me ho makyerɛ mu na yɛpɛ sɛ ɛkyerɛ sɛ wanya menopause ɛna menopause nso so although sɛ wote men wɔ mu no ɛnyɛ mmarima asɛm yɛka many of them are hono eso the into the beach no say obeti men no ewomu but enye men ma asem yeka menopause no related to a mape naturally say in medicine and in medical sciences no the word menopause no two words bi a yaka abomu and the form sa kasa no menu ejina homa menses ana menstruation menu ejina homa menses ana se menstruation ese obebu wonsa bosumi bia sa ne ye no ema oba bia se nka bosumi bia no e wo se obu wonsa sa ne ye bo from asase ye wo no ye de hormones ma wo ye wo no ye de we nso so nkosua obeto asase we so nkosua aye kind over ye ba ko ye ovum ye dodo a ye over ye de ma wansa na wo oba wo ba wiase difference we ye ne oba entem ne say e was akwan no so ne say oba ma de ya mfa ni nyina ama no oba ma ne de ni develop e koso sa as you are growing. And it's a ubenya sperms ne de ya mfa ma a development take place as you go on. Into be ma kra wudi 70 years kra na so be wo na nieme di boawa nieme bi di boawa pa yi a obetini awo 70 or 8 na 70 kra de eye 2 eyi kra na je se wo nyini bebre za 80 90 obema so be wo se so long as sabre no na be manitimi enya sperms anasa nsu a ye de ma no a emoa bi wo mu a etimi mama ekoka oba de ho oba kosua no ho etimi ne wo na ye fe ne sperm no once I betima produce nko ade ene wo ye den wo ye be ma oni obi koda na wo timi produce sperm na sperm ne quality nko ade obetimi na wo but oba de ye de kosua ni nyina ma no abra ya wo no se oyo oba na wo develop so oba no ena hormones so ka ho hormones no ye mobo ni nyina so ye bebo mienu bi a ye very important ana mienu ana miensa bi enti okobe medical year you see the Department of Endocrinology any reproductive biology and also reproductive medicine sa centers ni no ɛyɛ awoɔ ho asɛm ɛna yɛka wɔ hɔ. Neuroendocrinology and also endocrinology ɛyɛ wo hormones ho nsɛm nko a. Hormone bɛn ne yɛka wo yɛ ɔbaa. Now we are talking about estrogen. Baako aka ho ne yɛfrɛ ne progesterone and progesterone. And nkiti bi keka ho. Bibi te sɛ ebi keka ho, but mienu ɛyɛ major. And in help us to decide about fertility. Because the year came in as a menopause, so said you may catch your ne. A day so we need more research and say, yeah, boy, yeah, bear money barbary arsenal. One major thing important, and say Bible po aka, may very much into the Bible, into mean quotation, and name of my kaiso be a kama mate say, or say, oh boy, yeah, boy, and say, yeah, my mesha assassin, so a ma et a poano. It's not say, and will say, at any time, no, Obani Bemeshia, Ombetini Anyin saying, this is all there is to it. Because I was saying, yeah, generation, no, and I nipan yetimi perpetuity, and I continue a war, say, beya, ya say, and she, was so it's as simple as that. Because a more animal kingdom, no, almost omuntimi mubiu, no, you say, omutimi call into extinction biologically, no. Yes, say nipa no omo free system no mu because omo ntimi anwo ama awon to aso ama meka ho. But you say what you honey asiye.
Yeah.
We see to as a woman na ukosia na de ama. And I will see so as a man na wo de no be produce sperms no sa akopem say wo be dum pempen so bi a sperm no kra ehun hia obio. And that's obenya yare bi a ebe block wo amotima produce sperms. But a man dey automatic. We do a certain age ya. We do pempen so bi a sa ade no a ewo hono a ema wo wutimi decide say obetimi awo no. Enti oba say wo pese wo a one of the things I was say wo do any kosopa ya wo menses. Menses ni jaya sister wanya amani wo huna amani. Problem aba. Problem menses ni a leading wo towards fertility any awo. Okay, thank you very much. Genesis 1:28. Yemiaba comfort table or infantini or say ayadze amayen quotation no Genesis 1:28. Yedawasi bebre. Yedawasi pi. Enti wama me quotation no yema yase entre yango bebre she asasene so mama. Yo, yedeni yemiaba na se. De eka kwakosi ni say. Ubeduru mbempenso bi. And yes, say, one will say, you can't say, I say, just it's a condition. Idea that happen. Say, and so be bedru, Barbara Bomua. Nebra, Obicha bra, yo. And you always say, a brana, not yen and no more a gro brano, not almost can't sem chair bani and tiasie. Omo mayeti asese bragoro eye ade bi asantime mu no ne nananom no say ye goro sa brana enya asantime mu pe other part of Ghana ye culture mu no omo celebrate sa ade no, and you know why? Because it's an important moment of a woman's life. With the culture kakraba and our social studies kakraba room, with the cultural studies kakraba room, the egg merge to biology and medical science. And you know, Brenda mark an important part of a woman's life for no a time I was starting a bra. Obey, say one. Because Brian when you started say that day now we started say bra na obetini awo anin say at any time. It is ba ni period 12 years now at age 12 sister brother mo ni nkono ho. Moment na why ni period no kwa de say 11 years old 12 years old obetimi anyinsen at any time. Enti saade ebe koso odum pempenso obewo ebia no anya lucky omo twen obi ono so me de me twen kakra me ta so ye me twen kakra ansa obi wo hodo mo a na wanya lucky obi wo hodo mo a na bra na obeye no wanya lucky na ebia nkosia na ede ma no obi wo an nkosia na esa eja obi. Enti na ya ene in the medical world you say so u to kosia no anase udru the age of 35 if you hold on now you careful because one thing here na kosia yankopon de ma wo ana biological and the ma wo de ba asase so ano from age 35 e kono na kofom na kofom ne dodo no na so te na so te enti one more chance say mo be ye bibia wie ni monya mo qualifications say what asase so nyina wie na monya mo juma papa ansa no one hwini ya no anya lucky obo a 45 okra no 46 ekoni nyina o ye very fertile obi on so from 35 ekro no na tsanya na akofom eja me pacho mami emfa call kitu bi na me sa enye very emergency
you any doctor offer call no producer Mr. Wa if o honomo na yebetimi afa akọ for quick ad break mienu bia ebeboa me pa yenko to ad break na yema Dr. America Kra no attend to the emergency call.
My chef and party planner. You know we can't get this retirement/birthday shouldn't go wrong.
Everything is almost ready, but small problem.
Why, what's up?
We are way over budget, Kweku. Everything is almost twice the estimate.
Alibaba, okay? No worries.
So with TAPTAP Send, I have got a cake and decorations covered for the year.
You handle the food.
If any extra expenses comes up, just text me or call me.
I'm off today, so I should be easily reachable.
Hey, chairman, it is for day.
Say, no be easy. You chairman has time and money.
Would you so
Allah, Kweku tap, Kweku do, Kweku that.
Our chairman can call you.
Hey, Alande, chairman send them.
TAPTAP Send. Papa no. After successfully redefining Accra's skyline with the delivery of the signature apartments, Cape May Properties presents an exclusive unveiling of the tallest residential building in Ghana, offering a first look of Sultan Sky. Sultan Sky, a magnificent representation of the seamless fusion of quality, groundbreaking innovation, and pioneering architectural brilliance. An extraordinary structure set to reshape the concept of upscale living, thanks to its inventive attributes and unparalleled commitment to precision. This master-planned residential development will focus on the building's location, security, privacy, the design's aesthetic brilliance, elevated features in each living space, cutting-edge smart home technology, and amenities beyond imagination, with fantastic residential features which include 24-hour concierge service, a state-of-the-art fitness center, a floating tennis court, a floating swimming pool, a spa, a sky pool, a sky lounge, a movie theater, co-working spaces, kids zone, distinctive lifts for staff and deliveries, private gardens, chef's kitchen, expansive terraces, entertainment rooms, restaurant, and 24-hour security. Sultan Sky. A new perspective in the sky.
Yo,
me da
abuja for imamo ajusan mamo akwaba biem. Time TAPTAP send jumedi and agusu a ohwe. Enyumre ye twetwe ede afa menopause Dr. Richard Eghan and awabe kan ho ye ne no twetwe nkomo. Ya dane ye ho kakra. Doc, ye samu akwaba biem.
Yo, yeah, that's it. That's to say, mame. Sabre no obi frefre me na ya yi kakra. Wo de hwe me ba. Hello.
Doctor for the metiasie se ultimi inya emergency at any time intino. The betiasie amount na watwehwe sa nkomo no. Na yetimi ato adwumadie no so. Dog mbache yetio.
Aha, emergency be na buy, but me go so me advice into the mama or yen koso na yen ka de yeken.
I no so hu hia nti ye be na alongside.
That's it. The woman say ya ka menopause yi de yeken nara me pese onipa bi ate ase say awo ye bo wo ye ba wi ase no ya won to aso o se ye wo ne ye sha asase ne so ma sa pepepepe ne yete and it is a wunya period first time after wunya the moment abenya period na that day na so wutimi dru baby e fe no ovulation pa obetimi enye say the month na mu. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Enti sabre no akono ano na ekono a bedu mpempenso bi a naturally there will be a cessation in the say obe pause and I say period na ye menses no ebe pause and I say ebe stop due to changes be a ebe occur within your body. Enti mendo no eye menses kan ye no masaba ho bi ma recap ni bio and a pause no ye cessation and I say gina and I say a stop. Enti menses no a stop. Enone sa menopause no na obi susu timi ka na mema nsusu nya sa de na wo kan bia na se ne ma kire mu afa ne de na mse obehunu se men ewu mu de na nsusu emfa mema ho hwe kura men no ye menses ana se be wa ko mfichire na mfichire kro no etwa ana emmabio ye won pempenso bi asade ne sie enti ne se eye natural ade bi e natural bi aye ade a ya hihya to ho eye oba ade na kasa na hihye enye onipa na hihye enti na ye natural enti sabre no e wo ho na ebe so a normally na ne say typically no it occurs between the ages of 45 and 55. Sabre no 45 and 55. Sana yes say most of the time according to research no this is the time range onipa benya ni menopause it happen within that time range no and age range no. Okay. Ma kan say we no na me say sabre no answer na sabre no beba no and answer sabre no po eba bidu a de ekofa ne ba announce insan so a eta happen ma yehu say onipa no enya ana oyenya sa period na eye twa no twa ba ana say twakra twa kakra ana say period ne twakra no de twakra no ne yefre no menopause we bo say adwuma na wie why say adwuma na wie say wonye period bio eno ne complete menopause no sa bri no say ba be shase a bibi to say irregular periods period na sebe enfichi na obekọ no aya na etaba irregularly meaning say eba ne ochina ana busome and I was swimming, you know, Bosumi and Sana Mae. A woman na sign aba. And no ye beginning a fin na ashasie. Echa and kakra. And ye wo brain so swa. Se inyaba and na sinya and statise eba. Oh, hono winya be a friend of hot flashes. Oh, hono moa. I walk around with more with the wonqua, would take a show a woman. A woman, nasa a show now would take and not a change. Now, Baba Bay, I walk air flashes, a back a crack, never cut off. And no, another thing. And Najo, and I draw a down so sono. Uncle told ye, I walk around with more, and now a year a banner say, I walk crack a crowd with more. Over who say, now with the old sweat, and I feel free air too. And our symptoms need be night sweat and I do. So I sweat and I will sweat here. And a vaginal dryness and I say Saturday wasi oba wasi. It me dry. Papa ye. And I say mood so change. Say the was see when nijemu and check who the beba. Bibi see at once now for what start to say as a real hope. Mood changes and our mood swings. See, in fact, I'm the other crowd here. When you pan out so good mood, mupa, one no more starting. Oh, and you know, I feel mood not changing. A before bar. And then I want to who feel saying a before be to me bat once when you pana a before na bar so cry on TSC. Now then me behave this way. And you were a before be irritability. We are so irritable, so when you be kasa, be a winning or bowing kunu air kasa. Oh, Akosia, Anka, say na papa with you. Boy, and you say na person chere, o person ka asem na won person ntimi nka, enti na wo keka ne so hello. The make catch down say ya na tie. Enya atemdidie, enya hwe na make me person me chere say ni na ekoso. Oh, Debbie nye ntumu da obwa. Mia na wo kama asem. Me no wa hyeda afa kwan bi so ene me ekeka sansemi say be ya, wo be nya kwan na me akonti. Me hu ni nyina dada. In fact, menopause bitima mo waye niema bi a wan hwe ni ya won ti ase. Na obi su gina ba bi obagas ho na aden. E betimi kra ade bi symptoms bi a wan hwe ni ya obagin so nipa no kra nya bi e fe no bipolar. What do you say? Nipa no betimi show symptoms ya wan hwe ni obagin say wanya bipolar depression. Sesia na ni age. Enche na wan hwe ni obabo wani sesia. Enti eno no ye symptoms no enkete ni bi. Na before I make causes no so no. Metwe wadwene asi bibi so. Ye do mpempenso bi in human history menopause no ehyasie entem. And enti ama in the scientific world no ya to where the beginning say peri and a pre-menopause. Pre and a peri-menopause. And no edi kind ebansa. Kaneno nanka a free 40 say chrono. Sade na change amase say no. And untina ye catch a union man say won't go at the age of 35 you know who me when it's over won't quandia. So I want to say won't go any man how. But say obe wonko dia from 30 kono 35 for grade na ya hagene. You have to be careful because sa peri-menopause no e sha sientem e mani bi nyo mo de bebe 35 36 37 ho. And also so e ma wo insunsa so ni bi tise menopause na. But the good news no say esan say unyanya menopause na kasa ninti no yetimi reverse me say me Dr. Eghan oba me nchena wo peri-menopause unyanya ade menopause na kasa na mo period that start to say on and off Now for a certain time no ntimi nya period ebi wo ho na aba ye betimi ama onra ebetimi ayi sa ndema na firi ho ama wo say no from 35 no one year careful na oye wura perimenopause no eno so timi ma saa insinsuaso ni bi eye menopause for de na kasa ni bi but esa se wunyanya papa no eno nti ne didi perimenopause e de ama wo no na che say o ya ko but unya nuru ho eno ne timi bua etimi solve o problem no emma che be ya unya early menopause you will be no omonya early menopause e wo ho and no start with that period na e be do baby no 40 something no na fe brano and then the brano etwa kra so brano etwa for more than a certain years by 3 years 4 years e crodia and a sister na wura menopause no say period na wo ye no 1 year a my 2 years a my dear and ye not to adwin if you say we will menopause mu anesa yo yen courses no so mama wa hunu ade a menopause eye whatever it is and a mama on the symptoms no be and I say me do ewra omunya ne ntem anase menopause no ansa na papa na beba no e sha se free baby the your friend say perimenopause no what did the one na say nyame anya wadom no anya odomfo bi to say Dr. Eghan metie ya amaya ma wonura ebe yi sa early menopause no be prevent early menopause if you what there now we wura menopause no early at an early stage in your life you dear na ebe cause menopause again ebe kwa menopause de aba your natural menopause wo ho your natural menopause wo ho eno no ye se no Nyankopon na kasa hyehyɛ no eno no ye se ne obo ade na kasa hyehyɛ no ese wudu a certain age and inti make it clear between the ages of 45 to 55 and can naturally no time or between the menopause and the mabosui between the ages of 45 and 55. It's my cultural say so your banal programming no what do say ages here mabosui na say what that's your period that just say wunya for menopause yet. If you are menopause now to me be a revelation me Dr. Eghan let me aboa at the age of 45 and now 46 or 47 I'm a wow am and only me man and many bebre e count bebre e wo awo ensam ho any also sexual and as empower good ho and some of the areas are mashada when we say my research bebre by areas are mashada makwadri mu pa no eye awo o pawo se wo abotre na oto obu asema me a akwan bi am do be faso a obewo bia no am di no ahodo enuru ahodo be ma wo mo oni okunu matima wo de munya abotre nko ade a na ma ye ready se mo be call the journey no to the end there ubehunu bibi meboa amawa akwan bia so me wonuro ahodo am de be mama wa akopem stay na be wadom no be bie kwan na mawo enti yedi kan natural menopause sabre no yesi oba e obi bi e friend no estrogen a hormone bia on se be the character say ye menopause and I say ye fertility ne ade ni nyina ejina bibi e friend the neuroendocrine system eso any other biological factors to say me find so bad here obetimi awo amana ye apart from neuroendocrine hormones side apart from that we hear say womb and also uterus womb no ebe adwuma yie we hear say fallopian tubes and so they connect unkosua no ede ema sperms na be ma ne be ede be ma wono ama bibi fertilization bit might take place womb no and fallopian tubes ebia what ho asem pen and also you will be a ovaries na yemienu baako oni faso no baako benkum so and also so and a hwe and make sure say what ultimate to nkosua ovary no mu and nkosua to no etimi efri eba ento ba betima to kosua na ye frɛ no baako eye ovum na dodo no ye ova no ebetima take place during time a wotu nkosua and at a time yes so your period we now 14 days after that we'll call into in fact say 10 to 14 days after that we'll call into ovulation sabre na wotu kosua obi o hono mo a kosua na kasakra no adedrum pempenso bi a de nyankopon de ma no kra no enoso anase yasa tina bi kan ye wo na as oba no kosua do de baba wiase nyina na de ama odada enti de de be ma no se wo wesi ni nyina emedum pempenso bi na because wo ovulate anytime bia na wo be ko o menses mu ana wo be ye bra no se yare bia ni wo so wo ni problem biara e was so ye den utimi to kosua after when your period no e was so utimi to kosua and then that period no your friend ovulation and then it's about 10 days to 14 days bra why your period no time you calculating on it is a yare bi ni wo so anase unya omo ye what problem with ovulation anase kosua no omo kosua de ma omo na sa ana oma westi ni nyina ma ni nyina ba besene kono ebi na so yo bi akosua na yankopon de ma wo se de be wo asase so ha no eda so edoso system mu dia and it is very likely say ubetimi ayeden atukosua na ovulation na watimi ayeden awo amana yiye timi de da wo ba me nche na aka kire say Dr. Menopause, the first question I may be sound say, who menses and I would to me echo in feature now. A first question I may be sound. Now, fee may be some questions so effort ovulation. Kusiana and Martuono, your symptoms to be a bar be or bebiera or ovulity and not to Kushia, and there were symptoms to be on a home. Obi on one utimunse and so be guguno, and so be true. And now go on the young to me that day, and the young to me in the yap getting be as an away the basa and getting kitty be as in so be guno. In soon as you guno, true be near the idea, and yet symptoms may be and the church say, Obano Eura ovulation moi. Say because you are a free, na say a baby grassa a year a fence say ovulate a fence fallopian tube. Sanya man ye pay attention to them. Because the Sanya meaning in a course year, me Dr. Richard Eghan, no matter what and how long I take you, making it abuam wow. The Sanya meaning in a po ye and quandia, and ye bit my wow. When your menopause need be, not just say a bear didn't say you bit me wow. If you say Unipa will lose you. Menses and as a wintimi a tokusia and as a wintimi confitira sabreno a difficult if not impossible see a bit my boy more day what you know is all right menopause one a year natural between the ages of 45 and 55 between the ages of 45 and 55 Unya a chap bra completely. Not a brown baby 2 or 3 years. And Maya, meaning about what dream. So if you fall within that age range, you know, they are, and yet to argue, Abia, and Yadia, Ubako, no bio. But say, Abia, why ya period, I shall see no. And no, 35 crony, the idea no, it's me back. So when ya nubi, Nasi, say, bit my boa, a bit my boa. A drew once our period, me ain't try cry. Once a wing guy said, ovulate. Now that's so ovulated here. We need how me come will be at your program. So we have found my number. So one no problem. We need problem. When you know about tre. So when we have processes, no kakran. Coping so young couple bear wadum. Now in raya de ma ono so ebe ye juma amawo. Eyen kakran. Unyai treatment no coping see no baby answer. Now your ma result are who here no. So call menopause munko dia award ye betima bo papa enti maka natural causes no time bibi e friend no estrogen ebe start say a decrease esote sa hormone na friend estrogen no a play important role in ewo oba wo yo emu papa. Estrogen play very important role. Ewo wo oba wo yo numu papa ye. And that back kind of hono your friend progesterone. Say sani me no your ratios to be say which me produce sani man me no hormones na ye na body no. Say bibi e koso ye we how. But bibi e koso ye during menopause, na bra wanya wo menopause no, sa estrogen especially no, esutimete papa ye, e come from kra. Unya menopause kra na, o body need to produce enough of sa estrogen no. The next one may be a friend surgical removal of ovaries. Also, they can ovaries once Prince sausage to and so tea, and will be a horse and so tea. Semi can be for ovaries, and the catch also ovaries, and no and kusia tuono if free, or baba to kusia, I just said our ovaries. Unfortunately, no, we see a ba abrabomu emma me ovaries, no, yet me empoye. Operation eyi free ho ovaries ni ye no enti yetimi eyi ba ko free ho mpa yenim se ba ko ewo ho eyi ba ko free ho a ba ko ewo ho enti still na anka obetimi atum kosua ni bi ba wan ye lucky na se bibi asi a sese yeyi ovaries no a yeto kosua free mu no mu problem abam you ni nyina ho de anya no kure nyame anim ene awo pa se obetimi awo de ebeyetene se yi ovaries na kosua no a wo de oto no ana wo tu free mu no yi ovaries ni no free ho no de a sister ana ni aba enya de a awo pa ye wo akasa wo kosua de beto awo ebadie ebeye enti say yi ovary if you are not just when you be a friend say menopause straight away and we automatic say why a surgery because when your problem be when your cancer be I friend ovarian surgery friends ovarian cancer now and I'm sorry ovarian cancer no so am ye o period no sorry ye ovary everywhere sister se ni ye ya enya dia obetumi atokosua bio na se wantu emi antokosua bio dia na automatically no wawura the friend no artificial menopause no wawura artificial menopause to your bar na se winning very well say yeah you ovary ni mi enye fi wo dia ene mesre wa se wo pa dia na me Dr. Eghan nchen because me here so ovaries no ho na ovaries no ebetumi a produce kosua na wo hia no na be man so de sperm ne be ka ho a motimi awo amana yie enti se wakoye ovarian surgery because of ovarian cancer or any other problem nti watimi akwakoye amaye sa ovary ni no so dia ene untimi ento kosua bio ne barasa yen ntumi amoawo oba ebetimi aboa no eyo oba ne womb no eda so ho oba ne ovaries ni emienu ho even mienu mpo mienu ni ho po na se ba ko po ho a ebetimi agina so esanse ba ko na aka ne betimi atonkosua na yehia no ne ade aboa wo now fallopian tube no so mienu ni nyina wo ho fallopian tube no so mienu enti ba ko kura collapse a se ba ko kura collapse a yetimi use the other one and now timi use the other of your first fallopian tube no etimi aboa ma otimi eyeden enya natural conception but say fallopian tube ni mienu so afiri ho dia ene Dr. Eghan entimi enyeden aboa na je se wo ko ema omoye IVF edema ene de betimi de kosua no ede afa okwan bi so na ye de aboa mo timi eden enyi na ye de no e wo se bibia wo ho o uterus na womb no ho o fallopian tubes no ho o ovaries no ho eno de wo ba benchen a e di na sen once a wo period no da so ho na wo tu kosua ana ovulate de me tima aboa papa mo na ye ento obi a ya surgery near yi ne fallopian tube so ewo problem obenya automatic menopause ade ebesa ma wo enya menopause no ba apart from the natural no any ovary na ye fi ho no the next one no the friend of hysterectomy ye ka hyster be related to hyster bia no medically no ye kasafa womb and now say uterus where the same thing and I say wa eno po ye ka otwi mu sen wa wo dia na and I say but am say womb die ye besre aya na twi kasa na ye kasa so to me bia na ya Profono eye active wakra. Nemo no wumbu no me say ye nia ma de obie ni ma de fe no wumbu ya kan. Baby a akwala no ekoto na odi develop no. Baby a abofra no kokoto a odi develop no na fe no wumbu. And now said the other word near uterus. Enti no se ye yi wumbu ni efiri ho a se yi wumbu ni efiri ho especially se wonya bibi efen full hysterectomy na che se ebia wonya fibroid akese bibiri emedu pempenso bia ana se wonya ebia cancer bi wo wumbu no mu ne doctor ana se gynecologist say there be cancer na wonya wo wumbu no mu de ye mas maame ye nya mfi ho no mu a ebekwa kwa affected yema bebri enti be yi wumbu ni nyina se ne be ya o cancer no entre enkwa akiri na nkonko ha dwene e wo ba bi foforo enti eno no ya hysterectomy ye be yi wumbu no eden afiri ho ena ade ba akonso ebetima cause menopause apart from hysterectomy any ovarian oophorectomy and I say you womb afiri ho ene de ka ho no and our natural menopause wadum pempenso bia wontimi produce estrogen bebre na wontimi nso so enkonfichire no de atoa so bio medical treatment bi ebia wanya cancer Ebi when you be to say breast cancer. Ebi when you be to say ovarian cancer. Ebi when you be to say if I say womb so cancer bemu and a year treaty war. And no cancer procedures are you treating back on your friend of chemotherapy. And about also the radiotherapy. Sa treatment in your mabosi. MMA be to make call early menopause because and also so the treatment and also so etimi cause a situation where oba utiminya wo early menopause and no one of those treatments I can wasem no the side treatment no and so etimi lead to early menopause ebi ananka wo time on so ye so when you're early menopause because of medical treatment bia ye dey war genetic factors ye woni pa bi so a abusua no mu emoja mu ne maami bi ne auntie bi ne sister bi ne cousin bi enya bi a friend no premature menopause patoti any pa a man be a honomoa naturally no and genetically no yes yashisha say omubenya menopause and tem pede ye ken na ye ama wato ho ase enu nti na program ye din say how you be manage ye nyanti ase na ye be hu say oh say we SCDA na bia de na Dr. Eghan Ekaniye de nti amenya me menopause ntem nie ana de nti amenya menopause no kra enie wonya ti ase a enya afi na ode kwa hyehyɛ niema bi eno bi de me apɛ baabi afa eni akwa yi ma wode eni akwa yesei eni sei ebia o say ye krum ho de niema ye nwanwa wo ho no kure ni yankopon anim na so in terms of science ye wo enchechimu bibia mu ema bibia yes so in the world of medicine and science biomedical research you say niema bebre ho mo a it is due to scientific natural causes. It will be who said niema yabobosu bebre no natural causes. Yeah, na unsro bebre menopause ne ba enya dia wo yemba hihye bebre because when him say dia it is bound to happen. Ya hyehyɛ to say be happen. Ewo so. Minia bema so wo pese mo wo a ana wo be mo nya dene na pese wo be mo ye dene na timi de bo adwuma yie ana oba wo ni atenkan e de sex wo de wunya ya nka ba ye wo de wo ho kra ma da wo ba wi ase yes man hu eba wo de onko da ho ma da sister frame on 07904 603 418 and now so number first one da ho second one is 074 24 19 58 41 074 24 19 58 41 friend me on any of these two numbers and now say so be call TikTok and so me wo hopa me bi me ye adwuma wo hopa so and also so Dr. Dr. Richard Dr. Richard and Richard and also so call ho no a ubetima follow me na wa hwe niam ahodo a me ye wo ho ene nipa a me bo a wo mo ene amafo amabo mo matimi awo omo munya gidie eto omo bo ase ehwe de me ye mo wo na omo follow me treatment no omo a omo timi wo ye no omo be di me ho adanse yo menopause no ehon sem na yabobo so kakra ye ba symptoms no to na obi bi ka ma bo symptoms no so kakra ba me sa na bobo bi so e de akira. First one is physical symptoms me ka kakra me de enkai so yes when your hot flashes Me can kakra. Yeah, hot flashes na eba no, e ma no manya menopause no. Hot flashes na from ground. Na mpo omo kra na manya period no, period ni ye menopause no kra ho enframa kakra bi e bom ma bi no. Eno ne ye washa ase no. Kane no nanka entisa say no period na ase about 10 years before obenya menopause na kasa. Kane na entisa. Me person chiro say changes about wiase in the medical world, in the scientific world, never be free. In the natural world, never happen. And you know, so we bring your menopause na kasa. We have hot flashes. We a hoshishin award you be a now dear. What she show. Who hot was say or show be about mu. A woman not take up. Na sa oshow no eba ewo wo kon heat no wo tin wo kon ena afi wanim ena wo just say to see different places. Hot flashes. The next one here night sweat we catch you say obia we oba wa start here wo dam pamu a oshow timi di wa ma enfifre tew awokra wo mukra na wo de wo nya Bibi to say hot, if I say sweats, what's in for free? And near another one, vaginal dryness. Obi on one way or yanya menopause now when ya menopause like us only come da. Or tea pains papa na pain if free. Esa say the estrogen and the cannabis so na abba forminity. A man I say input into me and wet it. Na say ensure to me lubrication and maho papa to break bia no ni kunu da na ahwa ye dry be man crowd na wo hye no wa otimi say there be bibi twitwi bibi e me ho etimi e wotre ana pain e ba ho when ya bibi e fe no vaginal fencing dryness ena omo tagura menopause mo do na according to research no do na timinya de omo timinya weight gain na omo eso omo timi gain weight omo timi yakase and another symptom skin changes we so already no etimi aye dry already our skin etimi dry na sign itchy etimi ke cow enye dry ne pe Uti musa sa won tetew won kekaw won ye style bi eno so menopause na kasa no etimi ko fast animal no de ba ena ye ba mental health so ni emotional symptoms a ogu won na re ho tembia no wa ne ra ho ase obi aka ansemboni bi a kire no ne ra ho se si asoso na areho na ateko na ni je muruso bi a wo dwere ho akwa wo di ase na nia din and no ye bibi e fe no mood swings ono be kunto kwasisia aden aso wo kai me na wo de me masem otifia wan hwini e be ka say bibi e yero no unhu bi da na wonti bi da enia e menopause obi kura bi tima akwa kugina bi akaka say nipa we de begiri so abodam na dwene nya djuma enema o ye ne kire say edam eya banumu eya na eye menopause ye kan wasem yo most of the time na ye no brain fog or no mo na dwene mu aye bebrebe na dwene no ase bi chese odwene enye ye adwene mu aye bebrebe and also see some of the things are a chill set with nipa ewura ni menopause mu. It is that changes here take place, no? Me summer culture sister. Menopause no ba. Yenhwe the medical side. Yenhwe yare apart from symptoms here with yamawi. Yare menopause corona so betumi equity amount no be ani. Ubetumi enya accelerated biological aging. Naturally say was cells wo body no. Ebe start to say AAG prematurely who nini who bones who nompe who joints who knees menopause hard journey Aha dwene papa yi na me pesa wote asie se eye ade a ya hyehye ato ho enye obi na eye wo na mu eye enhyehye ya eye friend nature ahyehye ato ho ama ebi ne sen obon ahoden eso beba form na cardiovascular eye wakoma ehon nsem akoma no ne vessels no vascular function. In fact, the bedroom pepper so be crown menopause ni na akoma bebo peri. Changes in beba even breathing the kind of fast what the home. And you may be breathing is you. Menopause asam na ye kan enye asem ketwa senia ne binomo feel say e simple bi enye simple sa.
Right.
And now say muscles, yeah, muscles. And also so changes it to me bem. Sana wo hair, wo trini, esu to me ku, utiminya alopecia, any of the alopecia symptoms, you know, you can't alopecia, and I just say, oba o lose me trini. Say, you are pumping me a ku. Sense to say you would 3 round meaning now in the cool, and I say, be a new hand of one I start your air all day, and also menopause to me the bar. Many about me, Bema, who will be Bubu Samia at this point to know which will be Sammy.
Yo, Doc, Meda say ene enyumre Bruno echo into member best 20 to 30 minutes question time. And intervention for Sabre yate about menopause. And it is our any question be who Zoom no sooner amounts also. And answer the question to chat room on making kind a day amount. Doc, okay about menstruation. Na emema ene ye wako so what should we know about Emma menstrual cycle? Said when they are going through the changes now, we will be mindful of all the changes that happen during their menstrual cycle.
Yo, I think I'm here to take this question. Every day, baby, so say much chimu ama inya man or recap and say, inya man be one idea for the menopause. And that menopause, papa, no, so say natural one, no, so inya man be blue. And no my baby who near. Also, other procedures name may be a cockatrin and a banner. Emma will be on my yesu will be how yesu and early menopause, and that's a premature menopause. Yama a factors and social causes no enyina ewie amamo hunu niema etimi cause menopause no the early menopause the premature and the natural one na kasa and no ye with between the ages of 45 to 55 ni yama wati asie mama wati asie so Dr. Eghan eye awo ho adwuma papa enti se unya ndu sampempensu yi na se wo period en twemu na oda so your period we your try oda so your menses na oda so ovulate yenyi womb mfi ho yenyi ovaries mfi ho ye wo fallopian tube so ye adwuma yiye nko ade a Dr. Eghan betima boawo no matter how long I take ye betima boawo betima wo obema mu nya den and now your ba na se wo ba yo no so no woni be ma be dasen enye wo de woni feelings ni nyina ye ho adwuma yo what we say question me nya be ma menses na ye boma e ma no cause menses ye ma de enye be ma de eninti na be ma eni ovary eninti na be ma so eni womb eninti na be ma ni fallopian tube. Sane mama wo bu na no eye ema edie eninti na ema ena ekonfichire obema ntimi nko mfichire sane nyame bo no sa pepe na tie 28 days ene edema oba 28 ntuni oni party ono yerete o girlfriend and any people bia o opposite or sex out that you bit me na woman na ye na make come wasem no say any panel any menses every 28 days. And no, yes, say our regular patterns and also regular periods. 28 days, no. In subtract it will be say on the 3rd, it be next month, a be on the 4th, and now on the 5th. Kakra bi ni dia babeto so. And I sutimate kakra bi. But it is within plus or minus now. It's within plus 3 days or minus 2 days and 1 day. Like I say, yes, unipano, at least what you can say is a menstrual cycle, a regular. You have another one that says 35 days. 35 days. And then the emotion, a very, very, very extended. Emotion, 35 days they say irregular. Let's just say when you're 28 days this month, next month when you're 35 days, and I said the following one when you're 21 days. Let's just say and now when you're irregular period. Then be anxious and so. Say Obama person who say Obama when next year now and our girlfriend no. So between now I was saying I deal between their channel so and I between their observe regular periods. Regular periods. Because the entire regular period no boy any to me observe Obama and they say at least William says this month on the 3rd, next month to be on the 4th and on the 5th. Onyinya na no betima calculate ovulation no and the grade ye won my timid check ovulation it is first na ye calculation say ovulation e be na ochina na say you know say grade na ma why dey test it no say period me ye regular it means say and it's so easy for you to know when ovulation and kasa be den e betima take place and am best me ovulation so take place now who say we and our girlfriend our person no sabre no so you know or was signs and I tell be kind of go on yam or see yam my ass kakra yam ya kakra obo also say me who say so gume and so no see a tro and the ka ho that sentence ni ya bapa na ebia na oye enya and our ovulation sabre no me fan say o calculate time or start year in a period no. I came in day 10 or day in the period no. Between day 10 or year period no could see day 14 no. And at day 15 no. What do you try no? That day na when them PM so sa from day 10 na could see day 14 and at day 15 no. Our year in the period no. Mon fancy share so sa. Maybe I don't be better more am my thing. Monya a war and not conception. Some more period a problem with that mom contact me. My mom drew sabreno. Fertility never cost through fertility level never cost through amamotini and yin say amana ye.
Yo.
To me in idea can be understand. Say program you say mobile knowledge no more contact ye. Na yetina aboa mo
me da se doc questions bebre ho enti doc ya na wabonete wa mami we nso say can lack of sex cause early or prematured menopause? Lack of sex
obana from you sex there anka and shut that in play any major any problem be to menopause. It sounds say menopause no say bibi amebum sa causes na amebobo so no say bibi ama metwa bibi mu ama yangwango yi oba no womb ana yangwango yi oba no ovaries no ana say wanya cancer bi yangwango chemotherapy ana sa ne mabobo so nyina bi ensi dia Any sex and cassa obey you when you menopause beba. Sana person chair.
It does it. Doc, in your submission, you talked about say one of the symptoms of menopause, no, vaginal dryness. Now, is there any suggested or medication via ubitimi ede abwa ama obano etimi I wept ama empaso agrono ebeku yana?
Oh, papa.
Emema nse mebusa amom.
No. I'll say union moment and the busa question to where I be. Well, we said the right question. The Tiana say you never tears, yes, tenye, and man, mamma, what tears, yes, say menopause in the idea, beba. We are doing beba. Until you're so prepare working for it, my mama instances be free. Sana when you be so uti, ma or yen so. Also, never about tears, yes, say menopause in the idea, beba, a idea down. Emono se oni obey ko ye bibia anka naturally na ebra na onya menopause no on se na o produce bibia fe ni estrogen no more it is abra no so be wetter ni nyina gina sa hormone na fe ni estrogen no so ye be kosu bia won vagina mu ni body mu oba e fa kese na egina ni estrogen so onye wura menopause no bia estrogen no ontimi produce bio ana se ketwa bi no timi produce therefore no eba ne sa me nya be ma the here ne say se me menche na abeba me mo ato aduru a ode be scan ase ana ode be stress na ase be ma honomo aye wet ana me ma na aduru a won say e will be the effect of hormone therapy. Into bana when you sa estrogen na ni estrogen, especially estrogen no echo form no. Your hormone therapy emma estrogen near then. It me emma nitimi emma meye say time na onya menopause no say no. But at least it me e balance me kakra ma na sekra no it me for kakra. Inti yen say ni you no bi e de be ma wa. E hormone no o se say ne run down no etimi eba soro kakra e ma changes na aba no etimi overcome sa changes no enye sa de akoto jelly your gel bi ho no mo a otimi eto de mo ba no ana oba na timi to na ode extra na se ana ode fa na se e ma sa lubrication no sa bas e bas ye ho no mo ma e kwan edamu eyie ma obema ne timi ewura ho ma eyie no na eye uremu nso so onya any problems to be out the uremu nso so no eno nso so niema sawo.
Yo, doc, lubrication yeah no, would you recommend oil based or water based one?
It depends on the person. It depends on the person, the patient no. Na nipa no die eye ema ne sebe ne ready na ne body.
Okay. You, when Subusa said, Doctor, can you help a 43-year-old who has stopped producing eggs to conceive?
Okay, first of all, me see who say 45-year-old woman no. A menses snippet and a etcha. And a menses na we etcha a premature. And I say a natural menopause not taking place. A very important question. And the many so Obama China. You be checking, you be examinations, you be whatever it takes. I even who say when you menopause na. So when you menopause there, and you no creaming ovulation and MBU. So as simple as that. So when you natural menopause pan there, yes say naturally it take place within between 45 and 55 in the say natural didn't when you're the end of the correct ovulation, you know, and so will die out with it. Ovulation and so it may call.
I was for say sorry. I was for so now a question being so now mounts as well. My mount a home quite now so the webusa doctor question I will and into Sabria or question be I'll be to me a day abba. Me culture true na memfa baako mienu bi enso enfamra. I'll say, how long does menopause last?
Menopause dear. Say a natural one, papa and dia any it lasted forever. Say a natural one, no papa and dia. But to be a honor one, na me brand a chat. Oh, you will be medical terms a friend and say amenorrhea and amenorrhea. And only a time only pano any period. But the tini see a period need to me. And my be was our problem. No, right now, I know can say any be ye born more and my baby as we period. No, be or amenorrhea. Meaning say, there's a certain stage of banning any period of cry. Be na unya ne menopause. Sana mpes me catcher wo. Inti na ye say ye ni nipa ne betena ase. Na ye be check no, na ye be beside the questions. Ni ye be hwe ne menstrual history. Any de keka one san ye tini ascertain and I am sure say ye menopause and kasana aba no so. Ana say ye amenorrhea. Ana say ye perimenopause. I was saying any panishemu and sana you're very sure. Questions are no any straightforward answer.
Me that's it. Doc way answer A bisa. Please, if your AMH test 0.1 and you have had a left ovary taken off, what's your possibility of conceiving? Let me take the question again. Please,
Okay,
if your AMH test 0.1 and you've had a left ovary taken out, what's your possibility of conceiving?
Okay, AMH, no. Ye be more and I say ye kind of full word na. Na the meaning is anti-Mullerian hormone. Anti-Mullerian hormone. A very important biological marker. Am I who so nipa ye if it's a fertile and now on your fertile. A biological marker. A say a teeny boy and a teeny measure say oba a fertile and now on your fertile. Obetimia wana. And it says send you walking 0 to 1 no. Not say a too low. Now fin so say you ovary back on every hobby that no correct. Ovary home. At a second me know a honor a boa papa. Back on free more. A hard guinea papa ye. Into once our ovary back on free mood dear. I likely say anti-Mullerian a hormone and so etimi den echo form. Enti se ebeya too low sa na obi te say me say oba me nchen a me wo enura me de beboa e de boost ama enema akosoro because anti-Mullerian hormone no se ye test usisi ana se wa onyemu a eno na indicate eno na ya na ye de do se ojo so mo je agu sa test no pregnancy test no so a eno na a show se wonyemu a ma ye hunu se wonyemu se wonyemu a e ma ye hunu se wonyemu no enti se wo form a me se oba me nchen a na me hwe na bibia ma bobo din e ye okay a betima ma onuru a betimi increase bibia na affect sa hormones ni nyina ama bibia ye okay ama o eni de etimi boost man ye.
Me that's it, Doc. Next question. I'll say, what is the nutritional health of a menopausal woman and health lifestyle?
Oh, menopause dear say inyaba no mpenu ne mu edwodwo kakra joint no mu because of sa hormone ho estrogen na be body na anti Ebema joint ni problems abeba abomu kakra ninna kra no on sheda na yie especially say onya start menopause no kra de ene eto be kra na dwukro kokoda encheda enko yie ne hot flashes ne kra timi ma ninna kra it may affect ninna and
I think now we need
all these problems
second
obi kasa nanka yingina no
me too no don't so
enti sa nyemeni nyina kokoso no ba me se ba affect the quality of the life and in the health ye ba advice say onye exercise on time to make kakra and so say on time and walk on time walk exercise onye bi da onye no so bit my ye kakra na fe so obinya supplementation ebeboa ama at least and health and vitality no enko from kra na holding supplementation supplements your vitamin D normally E normally evening primrose normally taniama no and also so to me support so and health and the well-being so it me ko ye na duane die mu de be kan say aduane containing vitamin D proteins very natural good proteins mama undi enema te se starch enema bebre ena mama undi din so too much and so ena oye onipa wa gain weight and so on your exercise and fan lose weight kakra e bit makamo
can someone in menopause be a surrogate?
Ono akasa de ontimi nye surrogate sa. I just say, say ne wombo no. So nya wombo problem o wombo no ho a. Na surrogate no. Ye pese a chima yenu an moti ase say. The meaning of surrogate no say. Onipa obi en na yira o ntimi ngo. Etimi appoint and say onje omo fertilized egg yen fan share ne system mu don't timi mo ba emma say ni panemi enu ana oba ni kunu betima age atia say brame ene de ewu ntimi ngo ntimenye nipa bi a o se onemebewo onemewu a onye den me nware no onso nware me sikasem business ya wuwi a ebeji ebe firi nchen na wakwane baby ni etu ni sika di amano eno ye business afamu no it is surrogate no na surrogate an ye ka no em say ehonum na kokokosie oba waye menopause no the hormones ne nieme bi so atete de. In fact, a very possible pa, and yet very possible. Say, to me, aje edipebi eba, and you say now awo ebana ama womo. Because awo ebe jina so ayawa. Hormones be umu ebi ni eka ye AMH. Nde eka ka unina hormones a wasa body needs to produce. Now say no ko do sa menopause no hormones ni bebre ntimi produce especially the most important ones obetimi de enyinsen na ode maintain ni nyinsen no emu bebre ni ntimi produce therefore no and very likely so bia wawura wo menopause mu pa me enim se wo menopause mu obetimi surrogate amanipa ni no mo pa wo it's as simple as that.
Last question that I've got here, Doc. What can I do to slow down aging after menopause?
Aging, dear. When you're around menopause, no one year old, dear, will be aging 10. So I say, hormones now where your body, a bois. with you, our growth, our aging processes, and then the and kitty hormones so it play very friend a neuroendocrine system. A free BB a friend PNEI, PNEI. PNEI, it play very important processes in the human biology, in the function of physiology, aging, genetics, any BB taking place, cellular respiration, everything. Many nipa. PNEI ni jina cycle. Pino. And any neuro. And any endocrine. And I know immunology. Sa where the mama can boom mama kind of precopreno. Access it play a very important role. In BBI in your body no access a control the case part of my body body near different access. We a doctor no work advanced studies who say and yet BBI would do any who know. There are deep things I just say call further studies to understand. Into me, I can't say, aging process, no. Part of it in social biological processes be to say oxidative stress, any intoxication of the body cells. Into say body cells, you know. Intoxication of maybe toxins and and metabolic waste and hodo ebi ashe o cells mu ema and it's just to contribute to aging. In a nutshell, no, so when you're menopause, brabe Dr. Richard Eghan, my mentor acquire a faswa, overborn who buying a free signing my bobo dean. Now aging, you know, ako ye, obo wa di 80. Now, so Ojinahano near can age the cherubel, mama, Ning and Roho. Contact me on the number, said Yamano. Now you're ready between a diabo. Mr. saying I will treat Ninga time, not friendly. After this show, numbers no, ego about Akundia at the Waniso, who constantly me host at the Atoama war. Or more day in a fraying. Now you're ready between a Yama war, especially. There is a will go through any crisis to be a free menopause one. Means so say over contacting ye. May actually answer that's it.
Dr. Richard Eghan and Ray, yabeda say when ya ebre na wa join ye ewo jumedie so na wa be educate when it comes to menopause and aging. Yabeda say na yenje o last comment out di bejai na yemfa u ensi ahanuma yumre.
Yo, me last words I say, Bibi why I should have to order that. And now I see, and so we do more. Now yet, say natural causes, most of them are natural. Menopause is one of the things that yet natural causes. Obama should be able, maybe I'd actually a better home. I near discuss it. Yes, you dear now your friend andropause no. Nemo no andropause no and wabra kokusie and last to say madie no andropause dear ye wo ho aka dear ayetimi revival no emani timi ba normal oba ewura menopause ontimi free menopause mu ensa ma na chibio se wobra na etwa kra na etwa entimi nsa na chi bema andropause ne dear ye wo akwan de fa so a etimi man back to where now or before. Entini they came in a natural cause. The nature kasa and the share the sanity. Into when your menopause, no when your full menopause. Say oh dear no, a natural one no it happen between the ages of 45 to 55, no. And now when you the one na you womb until when you know, and now you ovaries when you know, and now say ye chemotherapy when you know. Still a regime ye betting up wow. Ama anka problems are and a crisis are be femono, etinia ba form one. Enti, here we are, mensuro frɛ yɛn na bɛsɛde ama wɔn no na yɛne wo ni nkɔmmɔ. He said, Kai say, menopause is a natural process.
Yo, abusia for ahanomo ena yede Dr. Ebesi na sede okaye no. Oye UK ahanomo ena oye ne practice or hospital no bi ewo Lewisham, South London. Sanso ena Ghana enso ebi ewo honomo. Baby awo ewo wiase afa na nyina enso no. Se oni o edwetwe enkomo ena se edro na ese o prescribe man na so posti edebrewa ni nyina otimi eye ne sa pepepe. So US, so Canada, so Hefa, obetimi aposi ede abro. Any bomodi ana fani contact details no na contact no na en koma ye twetwe mu bia no onhwe na omboa. Yo, abusia for ahanomo any edede segment ABC. The next segment no TAPTAP send focus section enumere yenche enunti yebeda ne ya fan krato ba ku mienu na wo any question about TAPTAP send, any issue with your TAPTAP send account ya twetwe ho enkomo team members no enso mehu Daniel ewa mehu Honey Child ewa omo ebeboa ama yetimi eno atwetwe sankomo me dane me ho mafan krato ba ku mienu ba TAPTAP send focus session ya de beto asoma me dase
me didi ya nyantachwa emre bia am disca be free Europe akoma abusuafo wo Ghana no me use TAPTAP send no fee mobile money transfer easy convenient fast and sounds so free tua hwe me discover ye mapim TAPTAP send entienne also download the TAPTAP send app no ewo mobile phone so free na fesika komo abusuafo wo Ghana fa na nyina TAPTAP send papa no
Yo, Sabre die yede TAPTAP send TAPTAP send part 1 no ako awiye part 2 ena yede to aso TAPTAP send focus section sa section time ye be floor no emma wo ebusa question general questions about TAPTAP send na say or any specific issue be with regards to your account and no so ya hwe ekwan ye befa so a yebetimi aboa and the team members no endorse into no yembie breakout room no into nyina yebe tena ahanomo enche bia sima be se enum entem ekosi eduntem no ye de session beba awiye yo enti say o question bia o ma onsa so a mefro na odo question no about contribution suggestion bia so and also with regards to TAPTAP send ubetimi ede aba. I have Daniel here, I have Honey Child also here. They will assist me on this section. And in Tisabe, the floor is open if you have any question. Bacho ubetimi ede aba. Oma onsaswa now the question aba. Ooh. Oh, very good. Elisa saying you may do be answered any question be and you'll be any question be there. And yet, any other business.
But sorry, na me mama sasuba mantimi but so me didn't Paul.
Yeah. Germany.
Because I fit Dubai.
Oh, okay. Dubai. Yo. Dubai, he fan now. I course uncover a restaurant.
Me tackle, but because of my money, many times, sir.
Oh, okay.
But okay.
Damn,
Mati, sanko for my cover sometimes we can pray. But me was charger.
Oh, there is any okwawa.
But me go Dubai, me go you doc me that's so mama queen. The thing say my beer account be say 3 years ni. Na recently my usual my ID MS ID they are creating another account to be on my other phone so nti amamanya ayiwo me other way ni say me update me information nti me ya so me I use by obi fufu but me also na my use say in account for different mobile number me other phone so nti man can me say much me abo am matimanya back to me old phone device so nka abaya me the papa.
Okay, so near etienne, every customer is allowed to create one account. You can't have two accounts. We cry the why lucky say yem block will say untimi enyusu your account. And this say ABA new phone, new number, and a ubenya. You don't have to create a new account. The obeya ne say o contact TAPTAP say o pese o update your information. Internet say new number no and na o pese o sisa old number na the new number ne ya. Then na ye the new number no ashe so. Na fi we yi old one no efi so. Enti say see no o pese o use old account na, right? Hello, Paul.
Yes, I'm Patrick.
Okay. So, old account with the new number.
But me use the same number now. The same number now, because there's more two numbers, but me use old account now, old number now.
Okay. Where the mestre honey chad or koi so contact Paul and mommy. Na J ni details near her how best we'll be able to assist him to change that, either Honey Child or Daniel. We'll be contact Paul Bia. We'll be able to help you. But generally, no, Mesre Ubia or Koi so say Bane say Abia o information assessor. Me fan say we email and I say o telephone number o di be o account for o di be o account no e na assessor ni esa o ya ne say e ya de a utimi log into Where is this coming from? Okay, I won't allow participants to unmute themselves. If you
have financed a car through PCP or HP since 2007, there's a very good chance
that he was about 6 feet tall, that he was completely scourged all over his body, he was crucified.
What if one of the most powerful Christian films ever made was never just a film?
Okay.
The Passion of Christ broke limits no Christian film ever had. But what many people don't know is that behind the scenes, this film was far from normal. Something very disturbing happened on that set. Something none of us were ever supposed to know. There were whispers of a strange presence, haunting coincidences, and unnatural events that still haunt the people who worked on that set to this very day. Why did Mel Gibson insist on making a movie every studio in Hollywood refused to touch? Keep watching, because this is what happens when one man decides to cross boundaries men were never meant to. Before a single frame was filmed, before the bloodied robes, and before the Passion of the Christ became a cultural phenomenon, there was one man, Mel Gibson. Not the Mel that's commonly described as a global superstar or an Oscar-winning director, but a man on a mission that almost no one understood and even fewer believed in. What many people fail to understand is the fact that this wasn't a film he planned. It was a film he just had to make. But even Mel could have never imagined what he was getting himself into. He didn't know that what would happen before, during, And after this film would lead to the most transformative experiences of his life, and in ways he never expected. Mel's obsession with the passion. It all began in the late 1990s, when Gibson was in a place most Hollywood stars would call successful. He had international fame, box office hits, and the rare privilege of calling his own shots in Hollywood. But behind the scenes, something very disturbing had begun happening to this man. He was battling some serious demons. There was addiction, depression, and a growing sense that something was missing in his life. He was on the edge, and things got so bad that he began to have inappropriate thoughts. But somewhere in that darkness, something strange happened. Mel suddenly reconnected with his faith, and it didn't happen in a soft and symbolic way. It happened deeply and almost obsessively. According to Mel, in the midst of his pain one day, he just hit his knees on the ground and began asking God for help. From there, he began meditating on the gospel, especially parts that had to do with asking God for help, parts he had read when he was much younger. And that's where the idea behind the Passion of Christ was born. Mel once said, "I was a bad guy, a really horrible guy. My sins were the first to nail him to the cross. So, I wanted to tell his story." Mel became fixated on telling the story of Jesus Christ's final hours, not as a parable or as some sanitized Hollywood epic for purely entertainment purposes, but as it really happened, in all its raw and brutal detail. And so he began pouring himself into research. He went over scripture, studied the Stations of the Cross, dug into historical texts, and even consulted mystic writings, like the visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. He wasn't interested in opinion. He wanted accuracy, realism, and authenticity. He decided that if Jesus was going to speak, he'd speak in Aramaic. If Romans were present, they'd speak Latin. There would be no English, no modernisms, absolutely nothing to soften the blow of the film. And that's exactly where the problems began. Because when Mel took the idea to multiple Hollywood studios, it immediately got shut down. Executives listened politely to his pitch about the brutal death of Jesus, spoken entirely in ancient dead languages, with subtitles and absolutely no commercial hook. And they immediately told him that no one would watch it. They refused to sponsor it or give it a dime. But Mel wasn't discouraged. He figured out that Hollywood wouldn't touch it if he didn't rework the script. But he also realized that if he compromised on the little details they wanted him to change, the entire essence of the film would be lost. And so he did the unthinkable. Mel made the brave decision to fund the entire project himself. A whopping $30 million of his own money for the production, and another $15 million for marketing. There were no outside investors, no studio backing, and definitely no safety nets.
Look, you're not actually going to get anything done by watching another YouTube video. In fact, you're literally only procrastinating.
The stakes were extremely high. If this film failed, it wouldn't just be a flop. It would be a full-blown collapse. But Mel didn't care, because at this point, this film wasn't just a business deal anymore. It was a calling. And he was about to break every rule in the book. But his next decision raised even more eyebrows. Mel decided that he didn't want the usual Hollywood stars in the movie. No famous names, no distracting faces, and definitely no A-list actors who'd pull focus from the story. He believed that the film had to feel ancient, timeless, and anonymous. So audiences wouldn't see the actors. They'd simply see Christ. And that's how Mel decided on the man whose life completely changed with this film, Jim Caviezel. Jim was a serious, devout Catholic actor who at the time was best known for supporting roles. He had the intensity Mel was looking for and the humility to take on the most demanding role imaginable. When Mel offered him the part, Jim didn't hesitate. He was ready for whatever would come his way. In fact, after offering him the role, Mel reportedly called him back and asked him not to take the role, saying, "You'll never work in this town again." But Jim responded by saying, "We all have to embrace our crosses. Jesus is as controversial now as he has ever been. Not much has changed in 2,000 years." From there, the cast took shape, and then Mel announced his extremely brave decision to have the entire film shot in Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew with no modern translations on screen during filming. The idea was to immerse the audience and to remove any modern filter from the experience. Of course, subtitles would be added later, but Mel's hope was that even without understanding the words, viewers would understand the emotion, the betrayal, the agony, and the sacrifice. And so, language became part of the texture of the film, and the sound of it carried even more weight. The harshness of Roman Latin and the mournful cadence of Aramaic made the world of the film feel completely removed from anything modern, yet emotionally immediate. But that's not the only bold decision Mel made. Hollywood could have built a digital Jerusalem on a green screen. But he said no. Instead, he wanted real terrain, rugged mountains, cracked earth, and weather that would be real. And so the filming was done in Matera, Italy, a historic town carved into rock. Its ancient stone dwellings gave the perfect biblical look. It was eerie, raw, and untouched by modern life. But the conditions there were brutal, because the cast and crew members had to endure freezing temperatures, dangerous winds, and unpredictable storms. They built an entire crucifixion site on a hill outside the town. It was a full-scale recreation of Golgotha, with wooden crosses, dirt paths, ancient tools, and nothing fake or plastic. As pre-production turned into preparation for filming, several people, from the actors to the crew, began to feel that this project was different. Jim himself would later admit that they all knew something else was going on. Something very strange, out of the ordinary, was happening. Stories began to circulate about quiet moments of reverence on set, about people breaking into tears during rehearsals, about a kind of spiritual force. And as cameras finally began to roll, it became clear that they were not alone on that set. Strange happenings on the set. The cameras had barely begun to roll on The Passion of the Christ when the atmosphere shifted. This wasn't like any other movie set. What was supposed to be a rigorous, spiritual production started turning into something else. Something that, to this day, many of the people involved still can't fully explain. And it all began with lightning.
Still too lazy to learn AI? Watch others get ahead while you stay behind. Disappear for 1 month to become the most dangerous person in...
You see, when he took on the role, Jim Caviezel had automatically committed to a punishing physical performance. We're talking about full-body makeup, hours on the cross, lashes, bruises, dirt, and blood. But what he and others on that set didn't expect was the sky turning against him. That's right. During one of the scenes on the hill of Golgotha, while standing on the cross, Jim was struck by a bolt of lightning. The crew froze. No one could believe it. The jolt threw him off balance, and he bit through his tongue and cheeks. According to the actor, the lightning strike eventually led to 2 heart surgeries, including an open heart surgery, along with lots of medication. Thankfully, the issue was eventually corrected years later. But what's even stranger is the fact that a few minutes after Jim was struck, lightning struck again. This time, It hit the assistant director, John Michelini, who had also been struck previously on the set, and he survived once again. Twice, on the same set, same shoot, same location. How many times does lightning strike twice in the same place? Scientists call it rare, but those on the set started calling it something else entirely. Some said it was a sign, others said it was a warning. But that wasn't the only unnatural thing that happened on set. Reports have it that members of the crew started speaking in hushed tones about a strange presence on set. Not something visible, but something they could feel. Some others described feeling dizzy, nauseated, or suddenly emotional during filming, but only during certain moments, like the whipping, the carrying of the cross, and the death scene. Even Mel Gibson, who is known for being composed and focused, was seen walking off set during these moments. Some said he was praying, while others said he was crying. The location of the shoot, Matera, Italy, isn't known for dramatic weather, but during filming, it became strangely unpredictable. Sunny mornings would turn into blackened skies by midday, only to return to clear, windless afternoons within minutes. A scene would begin under calm skies, and halfway through, powerful gusts would slam through the set, knocking over equipment. Sandstorms would appear from nowhere, and tents would be ripped from the ground. Sometimes, just as quickly as it started, there would be silence. At some point, it began to feel less like weather challenges and more like a warning. But let's talk about Jim Caviezel, the actor who took on the role of Jesus Christ. Some say he wasn't just acting the role of Christ, he was literally enduring it. Do you know that during the scourging scene, the whips were carefully designed to miss his skin? However, during one take, the angle shifted slightly, and one of the barbs caught his back. The strike tore into his flesh, and it left a 14-inch scar. But that's not all. Later, while carrying the massive cross, Jim slipped and dislocated his shoulder. In fact, reports revealed that some screams you hear in the final cut of the film were not acting. They were real. Makeup artists would later reveal that some of the bruises appearing on his body were not makeup. They were real, and they could barely differentiate between them. Jim also contracted hypothermia during the crucifixion scenes, which were shot in cold, stormy weather. And that's not all. He had to deal with extreme stress, physical strain, and extreme exposure during filming. His body had been pushed to the edge, just like the character he was playing. And here's the eerie part. Do you realize that Jim Caviezel's initials are JC? Same as Jesus Christ's. Also, he was 30 years old during the filming, the same age Christ was at his crucifixion. Was this a coincidence? Or was it something more? But Jim wasn't the only one affected on that set. Several other cast members reportedly fell ill during or after key scenes. There were sudden fevers, sleepless nights, and nightmares. But through it all, Mel Gibson never made public statements about the supernatural events on set. But those closest to him noticed a change. He became more withdrawn and more serious. He reportedly started each day with prayer and was known to pace in the early mornings, reading the Bible under his breath. At some point, it felt like the film had become a battlefield, not between actors and critics, but between forces far older than that. Forces of good and evil. Mel believed that The Passion of the Christ was not just a movie, but a spiritual weapon. Mel believes that what happened on that set wasn't just filmmaking. It was intense, and it was unexplainable. When The Passion of the Christ finally hit theaters on February 25, 2004, it didn't just open like a regular movie, it detonated like a bomb. Hollywood had turned its back on Mel. Critics were sharpening their knives before the film even premiered. and some religious leaders were either preparing to defend the film or condemn it in the harshest terms imaginable. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared the world for what happened next. The controversies that followed. The release of The Passion of Christ wasn't your typical red carpet premiere with flashing lights and celebrity interviews. There was no massive press tour, no late-night talk show interviews and advertisements. Mel took a different route with the promotion of this film, and he bypassed the mainstream marketing machine altogether. Instead, he turned to the churches to help with the marketing. Evangelical leaders, Catholic priests, and Christian influencers were sent early cuts of the film. Private screenings were held not in Beverly Hills, but in church basements and conference halls across the United States. And as pastors began endorsing the film from the pulpit, hyping it up and describing it as the most powerful depiction of Jesus ever put on screen, something wild began to happen. The faith community mobilized and took the film to the next level. Church groups began booking entire theaters to watch the film, and some even arranged buses to transport their members. In fact, sermons were built around the release date. For many Christians, seeing The Passion of the Christ was not just a cinematic experience, it was a spiritual event. And just like that, Mel Gibson's controversial project exploded into one of the biggest cultural events in movie history.
This video right here never really existed. It got over 8 million views. It's one of the first videos that is completely AI generated.
Analysts were stunned. The film opened on Ash Wednesday, and on that very first day, it pulled in $23.5 million. By the end of its opening weekend, it had raked in about $83.8 million, beating all expectations and becoming the biggest February debut of all time at that point. And it didn't stop there. Despite being an R-rated, subtitled, extremely violent religious film with 0 Hollywood stars, The Passion of the Christ kept drawing in crowds. By the time it left theaters, the film had grossed around $370 million in the United States alone, and over $611 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing R-rated movie in history at the time. This wasn't just a success, it was a phenomenon. A $30 million film, funded independently by Mel Gibson himself, had beaten the odds and defied Hollywood's rules. And the entertainment industry was left completely speechless. But with all that success came a tidal wave of criticism. Before it even premiered, The Passion of the Christ had already begun sparking outrage. Several Jewish organizations, including the Anti-Defamation League, accused the film of promoting anti-Semitic themes, specifically the age-old accusation that the Jews were solely responsible for Jesus' death. Abraham Foxman of the Anti-Defamation League said bluntly, "Our concern is that The Passion of the Christ could fuel the latent anti-Semitism that exists in the hearts of those people who hold Jews responsible for the death of Jesus, which always has been the source of Western anti-Semitism." However, Mel Gibson insisted that the film simply portrayed the events as they happened, according to Scripture. But many scholars and activists weren't buying it. And so, heated debates broke out on talk shows, tabloid pages, and even in religious circles. And yet, people still arrived in their numbers to see the movie. Another major point of contention was that the film was too brutal and was filled with graphic violence. Critics accused Gibson of enjoying the violence. The scourging scene alone, lasting nearly 10 excruciating minutes, was described as too graphic by some reviewers. Audiences reportedly fainted, vomited, or left the theater in tears. Roger Ebert, one of the few critics who tried to praise the film despite its intensity, wrote, The movie is 126 minutes long, and I would guess that at least 100 of those minutes, maybe more, are concerned specifically and graphically with the details of the torture and death of Jesus. This is the most violent film I have ever seen. David Anson, another critic, wrote, "Instead of being moved by Christ's suffering or awed by his sacrifice, I felt abused by a filmmaker intent on punishing an audience for who knows what sins." But in the midst of all this fire, Mel Gibson stayed largely silent and decided to let the film speak for itself. Internationally, The Passion of the Christ stirred just as much passion and controversy. In Mexico, the film was embraced with fervent devotion. In Italy and Poland, Catholic audiences filled theaters night after night. In Brazil, the film played in slums and cathedrals alike. But in France and Germany, where historical sensitivities around anti-Semitism are especially sharp, the film faced strong pushback, and several theaters declined to show it altogether. In Christian circles, many hailed the film as a divine work of art. Viewers reported feeling spiritually transformed. Some even claimed physical healing or emotional breakthroughs after watching it. Churches used the film to rekindle conversations about the sacrifice of Christ. Evangelists handed out recordings as tools of conversion. For many believers, this film became the most powerful evangelistic tool since the Bible itself. But outside the church, critics, scholars, and filmmakers continued to accuse Mel of inflaming religious tensions, glorifying violence, and pushing a fundamentalist worldview. And this backlash was eventually targeted at Mel's personal life. Reporters began digging into his family history. His father's controversial statements about the Holocaust were dragged into the spotlight, and his own interviews, which were often cryptic and defensive, fueled more fire. Suddenly, The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a movie. It had become a cultural fault line. When the dust eventually settled, one thing was clear: The Passion of the Christ had changed the movie business. It had proved that there was a massive, largely untapped Christian audience that Hollywood had ignored for decades. Studios began rushing to greenlight faith-based projects.
In the last 3 weeks, I've been coaching a group of traders live in Smart Shops. When I say live,
films like God's Not Dead, Heaven is for Real, and War Room emerged in its wake. But The Passion remained the gold standard, and the one movie they all tried to imitate, but could never match. After the praise and criticism battled it out across headlines and airwaves, the lights eventually faded. The cameras stopped rolling, and the world had seen the final cut. But for the people who lived through and were actively involved in the production of The Passion of the Christ, the story didn't end when the credits rolled. If anything, it had only just begun. What happened to the actors, the crew, and even Mel Gibson himself in the months and years after the film's release was almost as dramatic and mysterious as the film itself. Some found God. Some vanished from the spotlight. Others seemed to carry invisible scars they have never spoken about. And a haunting pattern began to emerge, one that those closest to the project either couldn't or wouldn't talk about. Life after the experience. Let's start with the main character of the film, Jim Caviezel. You see, before the film, Jim was a rising talent. He starred opposite Jennifer Lopez in Angel Eyes and earned critical praise for The Thin Red Line. He has also held his own next to Dennis Quaid in Frequency, and Hollywood had him pegged as a reliable, bankable, clean-cut lead. But then he took on the role of Jesus, and his life changed forever. After the film's massive success, you'd expect Jim's phone to be ringing off the hook. But it didn't. Roles didn't pour in. Instead, the opposite happened. His career chilled almost overnight. It turns out that some people in Hollywood reportedly labeled him as too religious, while others claimed he was too difficult. In fact, for years, sources close to the industry have whispered that perhaps Jim was quietly blacklisted. Playing Jesus and aligning so publicly with Mel Gibson had made him radioactive in certain circles. In an interview, Jim opened up, saying, "All of a sudden, I stopped being one of the 5 most popular actors in the studio, and I hadn't done anything wrong. I just played Jesus." But here's the kicker. Jim insists that he has no regrets. In fact, he has admitted that if he had to do it all over again, he would, because this film was more than just a role. It was a calling. Jim has since leaned hard into his faith, taking on Christian-themed roles and speaking at religious conferences. He's often emotional when talking about the experience and never shies away from describing it as spiritually transformative. He also began speaking boldly about his faith, especially after all the accusations and backlash he received after the film. In an interview, he once said, "I had no choice but to defend my faith at that point. I was called anti-Semitic and everything." For Mel, the release of The Passion should have been his crowning moment. He had finally proven everyone wrong. Hollywood laughed him off, and he made a global blockbuster using ancient languages and 0 stars. But while the movie soared, his personal life spiraled out of control. In the years after the film's release, his public image literally collapsed. There was the 2006 driving under the influence arrest, where he launched into an infamous drunken rant laced with anti-Semitic slurs. It was a moment that shattered his career and made him a pariah. But that wasn't all. More scandals followed after that. There were tabloid meltdowns, leaked phone calls, and accusations of inappropriate behavior. Many saw it as a complete fall from grace, but others, especially those who worked with him on The Passion, believe that there's more to the story. They say the film changed him, that in his obsessive pursuit to tell the story of Christ's suffering, something shifted inside him. And Mel himself has admitted he was never the same after making the movie. He's also hinted, in cryptic ways, that the backlash against him, both personally and professionally, wasn't entirely natural. He believes it's some sort of consequence for the extraordinary and life-changing movie he made.
How many cars have you bought since 2007? Because you could receive compensation of up to $5,300.
However, despite everything, Mel has remained unshaken in his belief that The Passion was a divine assignment. He continues to describe it as the work of his life, and in recent years, he's been quietly working on a sequel, although details have been kept tightly under wraps. But what's truly strange is that despite the success and the attention, he rarely speaks about the film anymore. And those close to him say certain chapters of that journey remain completely off-limits. But it wasn't just Mel and Jim that had strange experiences. Behind the cameras, something was happening to the crew. According to reports from those on set, several crew members had a change of heart, and some reportedly began studying the Bible during breaks. Extras, technicians, caterers, and people whose names never made it to the screen quietly shared stories of dreams, visions, or inexplicable emotions during production. Several crew members reportedly confessed their sins and asked for baptisms while filming was still ongoing. Perhaps one of the most profound ones was when Luca Lionello, a former self-proclaimed atheist who played the role of Judas, he suddenly decided to convert to Christianity after the experience he had on set. However, what's even more disturbing is how many people who were involved in the making of The Passion of the Christ still refuse to speak about it, even 2 decades later. Some actors who had only minor roles, like Roman soldiers or townspeople, have repeatedly declined interview requests. And some crew members have reportedly said they're not comfortable revisiting the experience they had. Some reports even noted that journalists who covered the production encountered a strange wall of silence, when they tried to reach out to insiders. There's no scandal being covered up, no crime, just silence. However, the few who do speak often describe the filming as spiritually intense, overwhelming, or unlike anything they'd ever experienced before. But for those who won't open up, some speculate that the emotional weight of the story and the way it was filmed created a kind of sacred